start off by going over the gunners in the Pe-2. If we press T, we'll pick up the weapon. Shift T will nestle to the sight. Left mouse button will fire. Now we'll go to the next position, so we press Control C. Here's the gunner radio operator. He has 3 guns available to use. First, pick up the bottom one, move it around or fire it as usual, then pressing Shift C will swap to the next gun position. Same controls there. Shift C will swap sides to the other one. You can shoot out that side. Now we'll go back to the pilot with Control C and we'll go over the cockpit. Beginning on the left, we've got the supercharger. Pulling it back is stage 2 and you engage that at 2700 meters. Then we have RPM control. This can take up to 45 seconds to go from minimum to maximum. Then you got the mixture. Pulling it back makes the mixture rich, and pushing forward is lean. And the throttle in front of that. Moving the yoke out of the way, we can see the air brake, which is the little blue switch. Then in front of that, the yellow switch is your flaps. Now if we move the mixture out of the way, we can see the flap position indicator. Now we come to the trims and their indicators. We have elevator trim and the bulbs will light up at neutral position. So there we can see the aileron trim and there's the bulb for aileron trim. On the right is the rudder trim and you can see the bulb for the rudder trim. Moving on to the main panel, got the airspeed indicator in kilometers an hour. Magnetic compass, artificial horizon, vertical speed indicator, turn and bank indicator, the altimeter, and the landing gear position indicator lights. Over on the right, we have a new gauge that shows our fuel-air ratio. The optimal position that you want to use is 0.9. Manifold pressure for left and right engines, tachometer for left and right engines, exhaust gas pressure, fuel pressure for the left and right engines, and oil pressure for the left and right engines. Looking down, we see the clock, oil temperature for left and right engines, water temperature for left and right engines, then the fuel gauges on the left and right wings. And behind it, which we can't see, we have the center tank. And then left and right compressed air pressure. Underneath here, we can see ambient air temperature, the repeater compass, and hydraulic pressure. Up on the right panel, we've got the landing gear handle, oil radiator. We can move it up and down to open and close. Same goes for the water radiator. Up to open, down to close. We've got the landing light, navigation lights, and cockpit and instrument lights. To the right of that is the bomb status panel, so if there's a light on, there's a bomb present. And then we've got the bomb drop mode selector and the bomb bay door handle. To start the Pe-2, we can just press E and watch the automated sequence begin. This sequence takes about 2 minutes, so we'll skip to the taxi. Now the Pe-2 is completely started up, ready to go. We can add some power and begin our taxi. Now when taxiing the Pe-2, remember that you don't have a tailwheel lock, so it's best if you use differential power and rudder with brake when you need to make a tight turn. So there, I reduce power on the left, increase on the right. That'll bring the airplane around. Then I can reduce the power back, roll it straight, apply brakes and come to a stop with the tailwheel straight. And we can prepare for takeoff. To begin with, we'll set the RPM to maximum. And remember, that can take 45 seconds to get done. then mixture to rich, flaps to 15 degrees. Then we ensure all the trims are neutral by making sure that all those bulbs are lit white. Then over to the oil radiator, ensure that's fully open, and the water radiator fully open. On takeoff, we'll rotate at about 160 kilometers an hour, flap retraction by 220, and the cruise climb at 270. So we'll start applying power to get ourselves rolling. Use that right rudder, keep ourselves going straight. Start applying forward pressure to bring the tail wheel off the ground. As the tail comes off the ground, we can relax that forward pressure a little bit, continue accelerating. Start approaching 160 kilometers an hour. And then we rotate. Once you have a positive rate of climb, we can retract the landing gear. We're going to hold this pitch and keep climbing so we can get the altitude underneath us before we start retracting the flaps. A little bit of altitude underneath us now so we can retract the flaps to around 5 degrees. Pitch it over, let the airplane start accelerating and still maintain that positive rate of climb. Once the airplane accelerates past 220 kilometers an hour, then you can retract the flaps all the way. They'd normally be extending to a cruise speed of 270 kilometers an hour. But I'm going to stay in the pattern, so I'm going to drop all these bombs and then make a turn to come back around. To prepare for landing in the Pe-2, we'll begin by setting the metafile pressure to 50 with maximum RPM. Then we make sure our water and oil radiators are adjusted as required to maintain temperature. Set the mixture to rich. By then our airspeed will be below 300 kilometers per hour, and then we can extend the landing gear. By the end of downwind, we'll be below 250 kilometers per hour, and we can extend the flaps to 15 degrees, and then we'll begin our base to final turn. Get our airspeed to about 220 kilometers per hour, extend the flaps to 30 degrees, and maintain that airspeed all the way down. So we'll get the radiators out of the way, close them a little bit to keep the temperatures up, because we're running at a reduced power setting. The power is already set at 50, so we get the mixture, ensure that's set to rich. We're approaching the midfield point of downwind, and we're below 300, so we can extend the landing gear. We're going to start slowing down even more now with the extra drag. We're approaching our touchdown point in a second. We're coming down below 250, so we'll extend the flaps out to 15 degrees. And we have to adjust our pitch forward because the airplane wants to rise. Now looking back towards the airport, we can begin our turn on the base to final. Keep a nice shallow turn coming, and then once we reach 220 kilometers an hour on the final, we'll extend the flaps out to 30 degrees. So rolling out on final, approaching 220 kilometers per hour, so we'll bring the flaps out to 30 degrees. Make that pitch adjustment again. Pick our aiming point and continue flying towards it. You can make very small adjustments in pitch and power to keep that airspeed at 220 on the way down. As we're about to cross the threshold, you can bring the power to idle and round the airplane out. And we're not going to land 3-point, we're going to land slightly tail low instead. There's our touchdown. We have to do full back pressure and braking to come to a stop. And once you're at a safe speed, you can retract the flaps and begin your taxi off the runway. That completes the Famil video for the Pe-2 Series 35. If you liked the video, let me know in the comments and hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe.